You are tuned into Plática de Práctica in the classroom. On these episodes, we travel across Albuquerque to visit teachers in the creative spaces that they find themselves in. They will continue to share their tips and tricks, triumphs and struggles as they navigate the contemporary creative classroom. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Plática de Práctica. This is an in the classroom episode. However, we are technically not in the classroom. We're on site at Berna Facio Professional Development Complex, the building says, but if you look it up online, it actually says center, I believe. So that's an interesting little fun fact. But we are at Berna Facio, what most teachers know as Berna Facio in APS. And I'll let our guest introduce herself. And I was super excited to have you on the episode because a few weeks ago we were in Chicago and you were recognized. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah, if you want to introduce yourself, it'd be great.
So I'm Camellia Termini, and I'm a middle school visual arts teacher at Desert Ridge Middle School here in APS.
Awesome. And I want to jump right into like what you were recognized for. So do you want to share and the award and then maybe where you received it?
So I received the 2026 Pacific Region Middle Level Art Educator Award. And I received this this past March here in Chicago at the National Art Education Association convention, which took place in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. It was great, and it was great to see you honored and you represented. And I think a lot of times we were just talking off mic a little while as I was setting up about just the importance about getting recognized and sharing the work that we do and how important those conventions are and how meaningful it was. And that was my first time at the national convention. So it was really cool to see the amount of people from New Mexico and then have people from APS honored and recognized and former professors and whatnot to also be recognized. So it was pretty cool. I guess for me, I'm curious, like, what do you feel as a teacher got you to that point that allowed you to be recognized, or like what is something I guess that you would share with people that has, I guess, given people the opportunity to highlight you in that way?
Well, one of the biggest pieces that got me to this point was my involvement with the New Mexico Art Education Association and just getting to know everyone on the board and planning the conference last year and presenting at the conference and just getting to know people. Mm-hmm. And it was really a classmate of mine and another colleague who is the vice president from the Pacific region who really saw my worth and just recognized that. And actually Nikki Turman had nominated me for the President's Award at NMAEA last fall. And once you start looking at everything that you've done over the course of your career, and not just like your resume, but like everything, like all of the classes that you've taken, all of the workshops that you've attended, and you see all of that written down, it really reaffirms the amount of work that you've done, because you're not seeing it like in a big long list. You're seeing it over time. So visually that looks a lot different. And so, like I said, I couldn't have been here if it wasn't for just getting involved with NMAEA and working with everyone and collaborating and really just getting to learn and connect with other visual art teachers across the state.
I love that you bring that up because, I think we are a collection of our experiences and things that we take part in and groups that we join and a community, right? It really is. And you develop over time, like that community grows. And because you also had mentioned that you originally started teaching in Belen, right? And then... Well,
I first started teaching in Maryland. That's where I'm from.
Okay.
And then I taught in Baltimore City and taught in Washington, D.C., and then I moved to New Mexico. I moved to Belen in 2018. Okay. So I was teaching middle school there for about 6 years until I shifted and transferred up here to APS.
Okay, that's awesome. So what's the difference, I guess, between like what you saw in like Maryland and then like New Mexico? Like how was that transition for you as a teacher?
Well, I went to school in Maryland. I graduated from, Maryland schools, and I had art and music every single year, all the way up until high school.
Are you still a musician? Do you play?
No, I tried to have my girl punk band. I
cool.
did not like to practice. My sister's a musician. She actually studied music performance.
Okay.
But I always loved music and just have a lot of like appreciation for it, but I could never. Visual art's my thing. My thing. And so while I love music, just never wanted to practice. Didn't have that brain.
I'm curious who your influences were then, like growing up musically. If you say a girl punk band,
Bikini Kill, La Tigra. I mean, DC, like in the early 2000s, very punk rock centric. And then, like Brian Eno, very big for me. Punk bands like NoFX, Dead Kennedys. That was very influential in my life early on. And we do see a little bit of that sprinkled in through like how I teach in the classroom.
That's cool. I like that. Yeah. And I think some of those things too influence, like our teaching and activities and the way we engage with students and the power we give them to recognize like that art has this potential to really launch you into a really, really like interesting life. So that's awesome that you have that punk background. That's cool. So, and then I guess going back to like the visual art stuff. So, I guess let's talk a little bit about your classroom, because you have a great space. And last time I was there, kids were making the sculptures, and I actually have that owl on display. Like I put it in what we call micro gallery, which is our cases at City Center. Those of you listening familiar with the whole APS building setup, we got Berna, Facio, we got City Center, all the buildings today, and so like how do you develop like lessons, or like how do you like find inspiration with like say animals in this case? Like what was the lesson with that one, with the sculptures?
A lot of the projects that I do with students that I find are most successful mirror my own visual art practice.
Okay.
And I was actually just talking with Glad
cool.
as I was putting up work about how like it's so much more fun when I'm able to relate the projects that I do, and I've actually done them on my own, like with animals and landscape and working with like really fun colors. And I had been wanting to do a project for a while with Oaxacan Alibres.
Oh, cool.
And that's where the inspiration really came from. And just kind of seeing something on like social media or Instagram and then saving it. And, you have strategies and ways that you want to make it happen, but it's a matter of like, okay, how much stuff do I need? What is the time frame? What materials to make this happen? So you're slowly like backwards engineering to that process. Yeah. And I told the students, I was like, guys, this is the first time I've done this project. Like, we're all going to learn this together. Like, I'm not perfect at it. However, I'll help you get there along the way. Yeah. And I'm just getting ready to start that now with my second semester students. And it's a lot of fun. It takes a lot of like prep work at first to get things there, but once the kids are all working, you get to just take a step back and you're simply just facilitating it, because the students know their routines and cleanup and where stuff is. It's just a matter of like how you want your classroom to run, which essentially is how a kitchen is set up. If you've ever worked like in a kitchen or like in like an artist studio, stuff needs to be accessible, but also like everything needs to have a home, and it needs to flow a certain way that only the teacher knows like how it's going to actually function. Yeah. The students will fall into place, but if it doesn't work for the teacher, if it's not teacher centered first, it can never be student centered.
That's an interesting perspective. I love that. I love that, because I've said before that I think we often will think about like investing in students first and making things student centric, but then it's like, I mean, our students are in the system, quote unquote system or district or whatever, for 12-ish years. Teachers are in the district for 20 plus years, like, so that's interesting, that perspective that you say that. And I love the analogy of the classroom being like a kitchen. Yeah, there's a few teachers that I can think of that are have mentioned kind of a similar setup where yeah, it has to be functioning and like well oiled and yeah, I think that begins like day one in your classroom, from the expectations to whatever, right, like that you set up and protocols and whatnot, and so that's cool. I love that. That's like how you're looking at it and how you think about it. That's definitely going to stick with me. Like, yeah, and I think with that, right, like that kitchen analogy, like the head chef isn't the one doing everything. So as a teacher,
I'm the sous chef. You're prepping it all, and then you're just facilitating it. And
that's where I was getting to, is the facilitation piece, right? Like, we as teachers shouldn't be carrying the load of the learning, and it's that like, right. We're in a training earlier on in this last semester in our department, and there was a line that I took away, and it was like the person carrying like the majority of the load is like the one doing the majority of the learning. So it's like, how do we again create these by design these experiences for students that they're kind of accountable for the learning process, and it's not just us dumping like knowledge like we're Kool-Aid into their brain, right? Like it's yeah, they have to be engaged, they have to be part of the mess making and then clean up as well, and yeah, I love that kitchen analogy. I'll have to come up with a creative title around that, I think, for your episode. So yeah, well, I know time is limited because, as teachers know, there's always another thing to do, and so you have conferences here in a little bit. So I appreciate you so much for stopping by and being willing to do the interview. And yeah.
Shout outs to my principal for being super flexible.
There you go. See, and yeah, you just finished hanging up your artwork for Metro. So shout out to Cinnamon, who's the director of our shows and stuff, and we're here at Berna Facio setting up for Metro this year. And yeah, you have 16 pieces ish.
I've got one that's a collaborative sculpture, but yeah, I try and give everyone the opportunity, but it was a bit of a crunch with space wise.
Yeah,
well,
middle
I do
school.
have to say.
Middle school is limited in Metro because it's like, I mean, people have to come see, first off. Like, there's about 1,200 pieces plus that'll be in the show. And so it's trying to fit every school in the district in. And middle school is, you are upstairs of Berna Facio? Downstairs? Okay, so you'll be downstairs. Oh, yeah, I'm looking right now at the high school stuff. It's upstairs. But yeah, these panels are limiting a little bit. And I remember being in middle school and having to hang for Metro. So yeah, but you'll have to come check out Metro here soon as we open up. But yeah, I'm going to jump into our pop quiz section now. And we do these questions, as I mentioned to you, with every guest. And the first one I have for you is, where do you find inspiration, motivation, or drive to be an art educator?
A lot of my inspiration is from the teachers that I had when I was in school, and from just friends of mine who are also art teachers. I love art the most. It was really the only thing I was good at in high school. So when I found out I could go to school for that and do that as a job, I was like, let's sign me up for it. And just getting to know other art teachers and seeing like the cool stuff that they're doing in their classroom, that really like gives me inspiration and really, encourages me to keep like trying new things and stuff that is fun for not just me, but for students.
Cool. Do you have a teacher that you want to shout out? Somebody that you feel like made a difference or
my middle school art teachers, Miss Arnold, she's actually my friend on Facebook now.
That's awesome.
I went to go visit her in her classroom when I was graduating college, and she was just getting ready to retire, and she gave me like all this stuff that she was just going to get rid of. And her classroom was so like eccentric and over the top, and she really just let us be ourselves. And I remember like kids were misbehaving and acting crazy, but like we were always just having like a good time, and she let us like choose what we wanted to do. And she was so excited and enthusiastic about like art around the world and like sculpture, and it was like fun to be like in that class.
That's great. Hopefully she gets to hear this episode. You can share it with her on Facebook. And let's see, question number 2. What is a tip or trick you can share with other teachers when working with English language learners?
Let them speak their language to one another. I mean, we can learn alongside that, and don't stigmatize them. They're learning the language at their pace, but if they want to speak Spanish amongst one another, like, just let them.
I love that. Question number 3. What is a tip or trick you can share with other teachers when working with students that have an individual education plan?
Keep your standards high for those students. They can rise to your standards. We don't want to use, differences or disabilities as like a crutch, as an excuse for behavior to get out of work. Like, they can do it if you believe in them, and sometimes you might be the only teacher who is believing them, and you as an art teacher get to see that student in a different light that a regular classroom teacher or math teacher or ELA teacher doesn't get to know them as. And so
that's great.
You want to speak to that strength that they have in your classroom.
Okay, that's great. Next question is, what is a behavioral management issue that you have faced and how did you solve it?
I mean, stuff happens like all the time, but whether it's profanity or someone decides to like break all the colored pencils or throw little pieces of crayons at other students or draw wonderful graffitis on things. I mean, to be honest, like it's all about how are you caring for yourself and how can you regulate your emotions. Like, if at all you can avoid like yelling, like that'll help. If you can just kind of disengage, like kindly redirect, provide reminders, and just communicate with parents and document your communication, that's going to help too. But at the end of the day, you can only control a couple of things, but kids are going to act out no matter what.
Yeah, and speaking of control, there are people that you might hear a few voices, because we are like at Berna Facio, and there's an exchange of like rooms or something going on, but so you might hear a few people talking or shifting around. But and then the next question, I love that. I mean, your responses are great. And the next one I had for you was, what has been a highlight project or activity that you're proud of?
Let me think for a second. Well, I always really like doing anything that's like super hands-on. Like, I'm really proud of that sculpture project with the paper mache, the wire sculptures that we did. But I'm also really excited about a project that I'm doing soon. I participated in that teacher workshop at the Groove Art Space.
Okay.
And I just did the teaching part of it on this past Sunday for the mosaics.
I was about to ask, is it the mosaic one?
It is the mosaics. And so I have a bunch of stuff, and they have a rotating kit that we're going to get. So I will be able to do this with 2 of my classes in the end of April. Okay. And so I'm really looking forward to that part. And I'm purposely choosing two very active classes. Yeah. One that's 6th grade and one that's my first period class. As I think they're really going to take something away from that process. And I've never done a lot of mosaic, so I'm eager to learn. Yeah. And then thinking how I can somehow make this like part of my actual like teaching practice.
Yeah, that's great. And shout out to the group for doing that and offering teachers an opportunity to learn outside of the classroom and outside of the district, really. So that's cool. All right. The next question was, who has been a student that has made you a better teacher?
So that one, like, I mean, there's always students who are going to challenge you or make you kind of like realize something new about yourself. But I think at the end of the day, it's my students who have a really good sense of humor, like the ones who make being in class fun, who are the ones who really help me learn, because when I know that kids are like laughing, like they're having fun in my class, that makes me understand that like I'm doing something right. Like I've set some sort of parameters in my classroom that allows students to simply like want to be themselves and want to have a good time while they're learning.
Yeah, that's great. Next question. Who has been oops, I'm sorry, I'm reading the same one. So the last question for you is, what advice would you give your younger teacher educator self?
Don't take home any work. Go to therapy and do yoga. And that I think that's really it. Just take care of yourself, because you don't really learn in college how to like have a healthy work-life balance.
Amen to that.
So I think that's really important, that teachers don't get overloaded, and that it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to put your mental and physical health first.
That's great advice. Yeah, I was given advice from a mutual person that we adore, Lisa Gillette, and she told me, it's family first, then your health, then your work, and always remember that. Like, yeah. So, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it, and I know you got to run here in a little bit, and so thanks again. And yeah, hopefully people come out and check out Metro and check out your work and all the other students that are going to be here and yeah, here at Berna Facio. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Renee.